Welcome back to what's going to be somewhat of a single topic episode where we are going to look at the electrical system overview and the absolute easiest way to drive in the grounding rods. So let's get right into it. All right, everybody. Let's take a look at how the electrical system mostly turned out. So here's our panel. We do have one extra space here for if I decide to add a mini split for some air conditioning. But for now, this is a pretty full panel. We've got two circuits for each wall, so north, south, west, east, dedicated for the lights, the boiler, and a ceiling outlet. We've got a 220 circuit for each wall, as well as the dust collector and welder. All of that goes up and spreads out through the attic. As we've discussed in previous episodes, that will help with updates in the future. We do have our outlets on the upper wall for the jack shaft garage door opener that will be installed eventually. And then we've got the rest of that circuit here. As we come around, we also have the side man door, which has all of our light switches. So main lights with a dimmer, and then the outside porch and the outside soffit lights. There is a spare run in there so that I can make one of these a double switch if I needed to add something else internal that I want to have switched, whether it's work lights or whatever else. Then on each wall, we start with circuit A and B, and that is replicated on each one of the 5 outlets on each wall. It is initiated with a GFI outlet or receptacle on each one of the circuits. So rather than doing that in the panel, I did that along each wall. At every second 110 pair, we have a 220. That affords me the opportunity to swap things up as I see fit. Some of them are 4-wire, some of them are 3-wire. They're all wired as a 4-wire receptacle, so I have the flexibility there as well, again, for being able to reorganize. Second wall again starts with the GFIs and has the 220s as additional options. And then on the last wall we do it again. We did not start on this side with GFIs because they are down on the far side of the building, as everything did come up and spider out there. This one is initiated here rather than running longer and then feeding back. Here is the dedicated welder outlet and the final garage door side outlet receptacle. I get those mixed up constantly. We have 6 receptacles up in the ceiling. We're going to have 6 of these lights that are all switched and dimmed, and then the other half of those circuits are constant 110 power for any sort of drops or anything to keep cords off the floor, just as a flexibility option, and perhaps even the future expansion if I wanted to put an air filter for sawdust or whatever happens to be there. And the one thing I didn't point out is in the back corner up above is going to be a wall-hung dust collector and ducted up towards the ceiling. So that is the electrical system for the pole barn. What we're working on today is getting this ground wire. We've already got it ready to go outside of the building, and it goes right out through there and is sealed up, and all of this space down here will end up being insulated with some spray foam at some point. At least in this channel, and then fiberglass above. But let's go outside and see what we're working with in terms of the other end of that. So the other end comes out just under the siding there, and it's going to go right down into the ground. And as most people are aware, per code, we need 2 ground rods going in, at least 8 feet down, 6 feet apart, and that's going to be these guys here. For a 100 amp supply that I've got, these only need to be a 1/2 inch in diameter. but as you may have noticed in the theme of this channel, I have upsized to 5/8, and we just gotta push that down into the ground and attach the cable. The cable actually gets attached through these brackets, and it will be a continuous length of cable from the panel through the first clamp over to the second rod and through the second clamp. And we've got some methods to work with here. We can use some old school persuasion, little persuasion and bigger persuasion, but in an effort to not mushroom the head of those rods and still keep it serviceable, we're going to use something a little bit more automated. So this is the Milwaukee M18 SDS Max with a nice little adapter that they make, which slips right around the top of that rod, and with this tool in just hammer mode, it is capable of driving these things in with a lot less effort, provided you give it a big enough battery. So we got the 12-0 on there, and let's see how that works. I'm going to jump in here and point out that I realize it's very easy to make things look good in time-lapse. So let's go ahead and look at this in real time as well, and you can time it with me that although I'm wrong when I call it out, it's under a minute to drive this rod. So while I have a moment here, let me ask that if you're finding any of my content enjoyable, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button below. And if there's anything I'm doing that you want more details on, leave a comment there too. I'll also note that these ground rod driver bits are made in the SDS Plus size as well. So while those smaller hammers may take a little longer to get the job done, you don't have to shell out for the bigger tools to save yourself from the elbow aches associated with the manual methods. Now, as this finishes up, look for the next episodes in the few weeks here where we'll get started on the insulation and interior surfaces. And now, on to some final comments from me on site. And there it is. Very little mushrooming to that head, if any, and that took all of 45 seconds versus several minutes of pounding a hammer the old school way. And now we'll be ready to shortly pull in the underground pipe, which is going to come out to the house and just come up right there and deliver our service.